What made the weird kid at your school weird? He shit himself regularly, deliberately. Man, what a power move. I respect that. When I was in high school there was this kid, let's call him Andy, who was definitely on the wrong side of the IQ bell curve. Actually, maybe not. He wasn't an imbecile, but he had no common sense. He'd act first and think later all the time. There are two particularly good stories I have regarding him, but here's the best one. We were in the band hall right before we had to set up for a football game. We were both in marching band and had our little group we hung out with and shot the shit with. He was known for being pretty gross. He was known for crop dusting people with some absolutely vile SBD paint peelers and clearing entire areas of the band hall with no trouble. He'd also do whatever you dared him to do. One time, after our group's tradition of eating some hot and spicy burritos at this awesome Mexican place right before the football game, he did the unthinkable. When we got back to the band hall, I dared him to shit his pants in the middle of the band hall. Without hesitation, he squats down and his face turned red. You could see his forehead and jugular veins bulging. All of a sudden, he went white as a ghost. He started off toward the bathroom leaving a trail of kibbles and bit-sized poo on the way. Of course, being the 15-17-year-olds that we were, we all died laughing. Laughed so hard our abs hurt after. So, being that I was the one who dared him, I went to the bathroom and made sure he was okay. I was still laughing and he was still in shock, but he was doing okay and just going to have to freeball later. I asked him if he needed anything and he said nah. I started to walk back to my cackling friends and before I could walk out of the bathroom I hear actually, hang on, I do need something. I need about refilling. Well, it was about this time that I realized that Andy was no friend of mine but a 200-story tall crustacean from the Mesozoic era. Damn it Nessie, I ain't giving you no refilly, I proclaimed as he fled the bathroom and scurried off into the distance. I was obviously shocked at the whole affair and my friends could hardly believe it after I told them what I'd seen. We all just kind of kept quiet about it the rest of the night through the football game and no one ever spoke of Andy again. He walked around like Master Chief. Even teabagged the ground randomly, all while holding an invisible assault rifle. He truly thought he was a dirt bike. He would run through the halls jumping off of lockers and make the shifting gears noises with his mouth. Absolute mad lad. Legit boss mentality. 100% alpha material right here. LOL, this was me and a couple friends in elementary. Ran around making car noises for a few weeks. He always carried around a briefcase, but never opened it. Sat on the briefcase during lunch, classes, etc. It was like the nuclear football, always in his hand or he was sitting on it. He carried it onto the stage during graduation. Got his diploma. Right as he was leaving the stage, he opened it up and dumped a bunch of confetti on the principal. I guess it was the long con. No one questioned why he was carrying it on stage. He was on a hair trigger, would snap and threaten people. Suspended multiple times. Two memorable incidents were when we freaked out at an art teacher, went to his locker and came back with a bullwhip. He made that thing snap and sent everyone running. She barricaded herself in the supply room. Another time someone made the mistake of teasing him about something and everyone laughed, and he pulled a knife and screamed who wants to be the first to die. He was expelled and I'm not sure what became of him. You went to school with Indiana Jones. The art teacher complimented his painting by saying nice work. We should display your painting in the library and that's when he snapped and screamed IT belongs in a museum. He would have full conversations, arguments, and sometimes physical altercations with a brick column in the middle of the cafeteria. In high school we had a kid that wore his pants up to his nipples. So he was called Pants all through high school. He was very strange. Got way too close to people, purposely liked to slowly touch people, and creep them out. Always walked around on his tiptoes for some reason. In grade 12 he tried to poison someone just to see how it felt. 2 years after high school he got put in jail for killing a hooker. There was a kid at my high school who never talked. It wasn't that he couldn't speak, or that he only spoke to his close friends. He just wouldn't speak to anyone. Teachers didn't call on him because they knew he didn't talk. When a substitute would come in and try to call on him there was always some kid who would have to explain Ricky doesn't talk. If you asked him a question he would just look at you. It was weird and some people would take offense to his silence. but eventually everyone realized that was just his thing and rolled with it. The only time he spoke was when we had to present individually in class. On those days people would get really excited if they had a class with him because hearing him talk was like seeing a unicorn. We had a guy like this. Didn't talk to anyone, starting in elementary school, all the way through high school. A year or so after high school graduation I was visiting some other friends, and it turns out he hangs out with them. He was now super talkative. Totally nice, friendly guy. It was kind of bizarre, almost uncomfortable at first, having a conversation with him after all these years. It was half like talking to a stranger, but at the same time, someone I'd known for a long time. I had always figured he had a speech impediment or something that he was shy about. Nope. Just didn't talk for 10 plus years. Weird. I didn't have any weird kids in school. Oh no. Yep, as soon as I saw the question I was disappointed I couldn't out the weird kid at my school. I was the weird kid at my school. He wrote his crush's name on the wall in the bathroom, with his own shit. They caught him brown-handed. Also would freak out if someone said werewolf. He was always running around in the shape of a 8. If you just said hello to him he started screeching and attacked you with his lunchbox. And once he ate a Kit Kat with a plastic. She was afraid of cows and if you said moo or mentioned cows she'd freak out and attack you. He'll give it to her though she'd even try to attack guys 3 times her size that were athletes. In 8th grade, this girl used to finger herself in class. She wasn't good at hiding it, hands under a hoodie in her lap, and we all noticed the room would start to smell bad. There is a kid at my school and he can't put his laptop down. Eating lunch on his laptop as soon as he finishes a test on his laptop. And we were all wondering what he could put his laptop down for. So one kid asked him. He was designing Minecraft skins and watching Minecraft videos. A future CEO. I was in year 10 when he came up from primary school. I don't know what was wrong with him but he'd always pretend to be a train and chug along through the quad. People would chuckle as he went past but he didn't care. Him and his other weird mate would just scoot on by minding their own business. When I was in year 11 one of the scratter kids, a proper mong, through and through, blocked his tracks and took the mick out of him. A group of us shoved him out of the way and berated him for it and encouraged train boy to go on his way. Ours wasn't the best school in the district but goddamn at least the trains ran on time. His go-to excuse for not having homework finished was that he was traveling, even though he was at every class, and he never paid attention to anything but his fidget spinner unless he was talking. The way he spoke, he knew everything there was about creative writing, yet his submissions consisted of plots ripped off directly from anime. This was in a college class. I don't think you understood him. When he said traveling he meant through time. He keeps going back to the past, writing great stories to submit for class, and before he returns to the present he trips over an uneven brick and his original story flies out of his hand and is found by a Japanese man who turns it into an anime. Probably. I went to high school with the Wolf kid from the meme, on all levels except physical. I am a wolf. Next image is him barking at the water. He called himself Wolfie. I had a girl hiss at me in 5th grade. Hadn't seen her in about 16 years. Recently went to a party she was attending. She asked if I remembered her and said boy howdy. She hissed again. I always knew she was weird. He would talk to himself and sit in the hallways reciting as many digits of pi as he could. He was a small harmless kid that everyone treated well because he was endearingly weird, if that makes sense. Then he murdered a girl immediately after graduation and hid her body in his bathtub. Mustard boy. I'll never forget him. He would cover his lunch tray in mustard. Chicken nuggets. Mustard. Mexican pizza. Mustard. Breakfast for lunch. Mustard. It didn't matter what it was. He would drench it in mustard. He wasn't doing it just to make a mess of his lunch tray. He always finished his mustard food. I knew a homeschool kid who was convinced he was Spider-Man. Like he'd try to climb up walls and flick his wrists to fling web. If you didn't play along he would run crying to his mom. She carried a stuffed rabbit everywhere, only wore leggings, and constantly propositioned people to have a threesome with her and her boyfriend. I had a locker above his and he always yelled something stupid. The most common phrase was I got balls in my face. He also somehow brought koala poop to the school. We had like 3 weird kids tbh. The first one was the guy that I saw pour an entire bottle of water onto a sandwich and then eat the sloppy mess, making weirdly appreciative noises. He is the one that ended up coming to school with a gun, but according to our school, handed himself into the police. The second was some kid that never showered, apparently had a Russian girlfriend who was pregnant, but he had no evidence of this girlfriend. Had some weird obsession with making stabby things out of anything. And lastly was this girl that literally just wanted to fight everyone, looked like a space raider, and said a shitload of racist and homophobic stuff. She ended up leaving the school after she picked a fight with the wrong person. Gosh, where do I begin? He was weird but more creepy. He wore a kilt to school, rumors say with no underwear, on multiple occasions. He talked about how attractive his sister was to the point where a lot of us wondered why he moved to Minnesota from, no shit, Alabama in the middle of the school year without his sister or dad. He brought his mom's dildos and vibrators to school to try and sell them. He ended up getting expelled for that, but a lot of people say it was because of the amount of girls who came forward and said he was following them home. He would hide under the bleachers during assemblies and play the kazoo during the national anthem. Rumor has it he would also pinch people's butts, male or female. He ate playground gravel and used the urinal with his pants and underpants all the way down. So this is Kit. Kit was that kid that ran to each class, with a rolling backpack in tow. He was small, had glasses and your cliche general high school target. I'm not sure if he ran between classes because he got bullied or what, but he must have. It got to the point where he was basically on the defense all the time. I had even tried to be friends with him at one point, just because he sat by me, and he just snapped back at me. He wanted no part. I honestly think he had trust issues, and I don't blame him. Because he would react, it kind of made him more of a target. I had seen him multiple times where someone stepped in front of him or heckled him as he rushed along, kicked over the backpack, etc. It actually just sucked to see. He would stand up or say stop it, and it would just continue. And he almost seemed embarrassed that you did something about it for him. So anyway, senior year, we have a speech going to be made by the valedictorian, and then the school votes on someone to make a speech. Someone started telling people to vote for Kit, as some fucked up joke. Kit won. I specifically remember my English teacher sitting us down and talking to the entire class. I think probably all the teachers went as a unified force in defense of him. They told us Kit had had a lot to deal with the last few years, and the people of the school voted for him basically as a cruel joke, but this could really be a defining moment for his high school career, and just begged us to let him have it. I think most of the people in the school weren't bullies, but all it would take is one person to ruin it. Day of graduation, Kit made a great speech. It was almost 15 years ago, so I'm sorry to say, I don't remember what he said. But the entire class, like 1,200 students actually listened. At the end, we all cheered. Like, crazy cheered with standing applause. You could tell it was a good day for Kit. He was so happy, and maybe even relieved. Here's a kid who had been bullied for years, and is being cheered and supported by a crowd of 1,200 plus of his peers. No one should have gone through the bullying, and I'm sure he went up there with a lot of anxiety, but certainly left the stage with a huge smile on his face. Looking back, now that we know what it is, most of the weird kids I knew growing up probably had depression, were abused, or were autistic. His dad started a house fire, insurance scam, and died in the fire. This was around 6th grade. That messed him up a bit. The kid would tap his feet and hands uncontrollably, and he talked about shooting people. There was a kid in my school who was obsessed with Mario. He had Mario sweatshirts and notebooks, and a Mario backpack. Well, someone figured out that if you told him Mario is dead, he'd flip, scream and cry fuck you. No, he's not every time. He got in trouble multiple times for attacking kids who said anything about Mario dying, even if they were talking about in the context of Smash Bros or something. This happened 8th, 10th grade, then I never saw him again. I had a few. One was obsessed with all Asian culture. Kind of random since we lived in a very rural community in Canada with little connection to the outside world, let alone to Asia, and would lose her mind if anyone said anything remotely negative about it. It started out as mainly just a fixation on Pokemon. anime, and pop, but quickly branched out to all things Asian. She once hit me with a textbook because we were discussing M butterfly in class and I said that I didn't like it. This was at age 16. Another kid used to pick his nose until it bleeded and then go home because he had a nosebleed. He would also eat the boogers. We were all surprisingly chill about that part of his personality. The thing we all hated most about this kid is that he would lie about the most random stuff. Like he would deny that he got hit when playing dodgeball or caught when playing tag on the playground. One time my neighbor made me a little duck shut glued to a piece of driftwood and I brought it to school to show the class. This kid picked it up in front of everyone, immediately dropped and broke it, and then denied that it was him that broke it, even though we had all literally watched him do it. He cried when we continuously called him out on it. This was also at age 16. He whistled "Don't worry, be happy, always." Man just had a hell of an earworm for 4 years. In high school he wore a tail and anime hat and sometimes on the way up from the gym he'd clutch his chest as if he'd been stabbed in anime warfare and collapse somewhere down the hallway as if he'd been killed in battle, and it would happen just out of nowhere. I'd be walking behind him and bam, surprise anime scene with groaning and all. He was a really solid guy and had a good heart, he was just really odd at that time. Kid always wore a zoot suit, every day. Not that weird I guess, but back in high school, weird as fuck. He once asked me to be his gay slave, so I don't even know how to feel about that. I just wanted some Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I wasn't even going to use. He hugged everyone. He was caught eating berries off of a tree branch in a compost trash can in 5th grade. He'd act feral around everyone else, but if you got to know the kid he was actually pretty down to earth and cool. In middle school around 6th grade I tried getting to know him better and found out he might have had some kind of multiple personality disorder, and was grateful for someone who didn't judge him that much. I'd try my best to not get him to do stupid shit. He was later expelled for what everyone said was biting a teacher. I saw him once during high school and he got really fucking hot too. Seemed way chilled out. When I asked about why he left he said he wasn't allowed to talk about it but was getting help, so that's always good. They would play tag and run around the cafeteria in high school. Acted extremely childish and had no manners. There were 2 of them. Half of me cringed from their doings. The other half envied their self-confidence and lack of care about what others thought. Kid smelled like he bathed in cat pee every day. Pissed at anyone who came near him. Used to run through the hallways from class to class. Threatened to kill me in a computer lab because I used Internet Explorer instead of Firefox. I'm on his side about not using Internet Explorer.